I'll turn it on again, guys.
There we go.
We got it. All right, I'll call the meeting to order. Christie, roll call.
Kyle,
Here.
Larry,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Mark,
Here.
Brian,
Here.
Danielle, Jeremy,
Here.
Greg,
Here.
Jim. We have a quorum.
Okay, pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
He's my hero.
There's a switch.
He's my hero, man.
Oh, right in front of you.
We can vote it.
Don't go in the middle. There you go.
All right, I have proof of publication here. Visitors, anyone desiring to speak on any item or issue not on the agenda or any item on the agenda that does not include public hearing may do so. It shall be limited to 3 minutes. Persons shall identify themselves by name and address. Person speaking should not expect the planning commission to engage in back and forth dialogue regarding their comments. Unless an agenda item includes a public hearing, no person may speak during the business portion of the meeting, provided, however, persons speaking during the public hearing are limited to between 5 and 20 minutes. The public is advised that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is located on the north wall of the council chamber, and one copy of all reproducible written material to be discussed at this meeting is available for examination or copying. I would make a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Brian and
Great.
Greg.
Okay, who made it?
Me. Ryan.
Oh, thank you. And Greg seconded? Thank you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Which was the minutes, by the way. Okay, item 8A has been, will be on next month.
Larry, you need to do consent agenda with the minutes, please.
Oh, okay,
We
good.
approve the agenda.
I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
So moved.
Kyle, second. Mark. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Item 8A is carried over until next month. So we'll start with item 8B, public hearing to recommend ordinance change to amend S House South and Barnuminium rules or definitions allowance to in specific zoning districts. I'll open the public hearing.
Hey, Larry, can you go back? Since we're laying that one over, you probably really should say, you did the approval of the agenda. We want to approve it with that item removed.
Okay,
I think is how you should
so I
probably.
have to say minutes?
No, not minutes, your approval of agenda. If you're taking
Oh, I have to read
8A
that.
off.
I have to read that thing?
No. If you're taking 8A off, you should not have approved the agenda as it was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's what I'm saying. Right?
So he's making a motion
So
to
make a
approve
motion
the
to-
agenda,
Somebody makes a motion to,
deleting 8A.
Correct.
Correct.
So moved.
so moved. Second?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just gotta remember that. I don't think we did that before. All right, I'm not gonna read 8B again. I open the public hearing. Any public comments, opponents or opponents? And it doesn't look like it. I'll close the public hearing. Discussion and questions by planning commission members. Rune?
So this has been brought up to me now 3-4 separate times from 3 or 4 separate individuals asking about, they use the word barn dominium. In our ordinances, it's called a shouse. It was kind of loose in our ordinances. So we have a section on shouses specifically, and it lays out all these specific rules. My proposed, because adding it to the matrix under conditional under all residential uses, I kind of added some more definitions to kind of shrink down what you're allowed to do under houses. So the current is these items 1 through 15. The proposed just changes number 1 to say that you have to have permanent continuous foundation. This stops someone from saying, hey, I want to build a house and I'm going to use pole barn footings. You can't do that in residential anyways, but even in transitional ag, if you're using it for living, you should be putting continuous footings down. So that amended that number 1. And then 17 was added, which states when building a house, let me see here, all items requiring instruction. So 16 was also added, all structures shall meet the minimum coverage on a lot as any ordinary single-family dwelling. I believe that was in there, but we just reiterated it. 17, when building a house in a residential zone, all building materials need to be consistent with residential construction materials. This is already in our code somewhere else. It was just a, hey, let's stick it in here so there's a reminder that if you're building a house, barn-dominium in a residential area, it can't be a metal building. It has to have residential style siding. It has to have residential style roofing. Essentially, when you drive by, you can't really tell that it's not just a residential home.
Didn't we at one time talk about metal siding on garages?
We did.
Separate detached garages?
So
Are we okay with that?
no, in residential, no. In transitional ag, you're fine. If you are in residential, there is a specific portion in our code that states any accessory buildings or homes built in residential have to be built with residential style materials. So if you're in Old Town, for example, your backdoor neighbor can't put up a pole metal building because it's not congruent with residential materials, construction materials. So that's where that came from. We have in here, no garage sidewalls shall exceed 16 feet in height. Again, we're just stopping that 20-foot tall sidewall kind of look. The garage space,
16 high enough for motorhome?
it is.
It is.
Yep, so that's kind of the thought process behind that. Those numbers can be removed. Garages have a 10-foot high sidewall. So,
Are you counting the sidewall, just the wall height, or are you
Yeah.
counting the?
Wall
gable
height.
end?
Just
wall height.
Okay, so the gable end doesn't count?
No.
16 foot.
No, and that's up to you guys. 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. There's a town in Kansas that had some shouse, and I really liked what they said, so I took some of their stuff. Their number was 16 feet in height. If you guys want to make it congruent with regular garages, detached garages have a 10-foot high sidewall. The 16-foot height, if the garage is attached, we don't have anything that states that your garage sidewall can't be 10 feet or whatever because it's part of your house. So that's where kind of tying this in was just stating, hey, you can't have over a 16-foot tall sidewall in your house. Essentially stopping someone from building a 20-foot just box. The garage space square footage shall be limited to 1.5 times of the living space square footage. This is kind of the rub of bringing this entire thing in. A lot of people nowadays are wanting to do, they're trying to, one, build houses a little cheaper, more affordable, and they want to have a larger garage space than a residential space. In our current code, we had nothing, essentially if your garage was larger than your residential, there was something in there with houses where it had to do with the machine shed. It was very vague and we didn't really say yes or no. So what this will do was specify that and state, okay, your garage space is larger than your residential, but you're still tied to 1.5 times your residential. That way we don't have someone, there's one lot that comes to mind that's 3 acres. They're not building a 300-foot house that has 18 garage bays and has a bedroom and a bathroom and a kitchen, right? This is kind of,
Looks like I gotta change my phone.
Can you have a turret?
so, which if you do a 2-bedroom, or if you do a 2-story residential home, it allows your garage to be pretty large. It's just putting a limit on that because someone will try and come up with something to skirt around that.
But
So,
can't you, but a barn dominium, you can't a barn dominium, you could have a 40 by 80 building with a small living space in it.
Not according to this.
Really? So all these that are going along the bypass out here, that are all 40 by 60s,
Where are they going?
along, up there along 275, the Hamptons got planned,
So,
that we already okayed.
those ones are specific to the CDU, or the CMD, whatever we called it.
Oh, that new,
Right. So there was different things allowed, and those are commercial, those aren't residential.
careful,
So
because I was told I couldn't do it at my shop, non-commercial,
we're at,
where the shop's at.
where's the shop?
On Ida.
Oh, sure. I'll have to check with that.
And I'm assuming that was because of that special zoning, the
Right.
mixed-use development.
Right, there was a discussion about adding living space in those.
Which I think is gonna turn into a problem someday.
Probably.
Because, you're telling people that an electrician, a plumber, a tile guy, whoever
Yeah,
can work out of that building and live.
I'm gonna have to check back. I think that was the original discussion that he wanted to do, and he backed away from that. I actually don't think it's allowed in
Okay,
the CMD, because I remember him talking about it for a long time, and
so
then
these are just gonna be personal storage.
potentially, or a plumber, or whatever. Yeah,
Wasn't that just what I said?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. I just couldn't remember, because I remember Bob talking about wanting to do that, and then if I remember down the road, I think he kind of farmed that out and found there was really no interest in that.
Oh,
And he went down more for the commercial. That's where we put restrictions on what type of commercials out there for the parking,
Right.
all of that stuff.
Parking
would be the same.
Right,
And that's my point, is if it's okayed there for commercial, then you're gonna have people like me and other guys that are in other commercial areas, then, because you're allowing downtown commercial, you can live above your.
correct, yep,
Everywhere else, you can, in a house, you can live
correct, in a residential zone.
in a residential zone.
And you're not allowed to have your business out of your house. So that's the difference between this is a residential use. So if someone comes to me and says, hey, I'm gonna run my carpentry shop out of my R3 zoning, you're not. If
Right.
you wanna have 3 or 4 garage bays for all your boats and everything else, great for
Yeah.
personal use.
Yeah,
The commercial part is what kind of differentiates that from this. This is just has to do with commercial, or with residential,
okay.
the Schaus barn dominium.
Oh,
Yeah, there's nothing in commercial with this. Yep.
okay.
And then they have to abide by the regular residential home, there's some home residential jobs or things you can run out of your house, and we've got them specified,
Yeah,
so.
which is pretty normal,
Right.
because the city's thinking about the guy that buys it next.
Right,
It has to be safe, it has to be the code, it has to be
right,
all that good stuff.
yeah. So someone builds it and they sell it to a guy who thinks he's gonna run his carpentry business out of there?
Yeah, no.
You can't, it's residential.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is specifically residential,
Residential zone.
and that's where that limiting factor is, so someone doesn't get a 3-acre lot and,
And,
hey, I'm putting 15 bays in and I'm gonna rent them to all my buddies under, no, we're just gonna say this is your limiting factor for this particular use. And then we have the minimum of a 1-hour firewall should be constructed between any living space and a budding garage space. It's a code thing, it's a little bit stronger than regular building code, but to me, if you've got a larger garage space, you're storing a lot more gasoline, a lot more everything else, and so you're just gonna have to put up a 1-hour, which is not too difficult, 2 layers of 5/8 gyp board, 1 layer of 5/8 if it's a Type X, but just,
is there gonna be some, you think there needs to be some kind of a HVAC, fresh air, safety type of deal? With machinery running and that
I mean-
suck that into the house?
so the residential portion will all tie to the IRC, which means there will be a CO2 detector on each floor and in front of each bedroom. So if you're running all your vehicles inside your barn dominium, and you open that door, those alarms are gonna go off. So we could, I mean, potentially add something in there
I
for,
was just wondering if there was, like all the houses that are being built now that have 4 or 5 car garages, is there now something different to that code?
no, I mean, essentially where the code, where the IRC is kind of heading that off is you've got to have a self-closer at the door between the garage and the house. You have to have it fire rated a certain way. You've got your CO2 sensors. So, I mean, we could add something in here about some sort of makeup air unit.
No, I don't think it needs to be. I was just wondering if that's in the new. If we adopted the newer that we just bypassed on, is that something that's in those new codes?
I'll have to double check.
Details, so.
In 2 weeks, I'm in Denver for a whole week doing code stuff. So that'll be a question I can bring out, double check. I don't believe it is because I know quite a bit of the new code already. The mechanical stuff had some added stuff, but for garage makeup air, I don't believe so.
I don't think I've ever heard
Mhm.
of somebody getting hurt accidentally by leaving something running in a new home.
Not in the
Unless they want to.
I know one of them. I know of a guy that was doing frying fish, and he'd always vented it out the window that was right there, but the wind was in the wrong direction, and put it back into the shop, and just about killed some people.
Mhm.
They had to drag some people out, and Valley and Waterloo both went and took them in. 3 or 4 of them had to be in that chamber, that, whatever they call it, grave. Yeah, it was pretty scary.
Mhm.
And I was sick that day, or I'd have been out there.
On the 1 hour firewall, is that 5/8 on one side of the wall and 5/8 on the other? Or is it a double layer on
It's a
the
double layer,
business side?
business side.
Okay, the other side can be ½ inch.
Correct, yeah. That way,
I was just curious.
yeah, that way in general, the fire's gonna start in the garage. So it's licking up against that double, because if it goes through that first layer, then it's in the cavity.
Yeah.
And you've got fire blocking and everything else, but then it's too late at that point. So it's on the garage side would have that.
And
There's,
that's with one code, correct?
What's-
One code of mud.
it's called out.
It's gotta have one code of mud to make it 1 hour with 2 5/8, I believe.
Yeah, they have it, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it.
Is there an option to use steel instead of,
Mhm.
okay.
As long as whatever material you're doing is 1 hour fire rated, which if you look in the book, there's about 10 different ways to get there. If you did block, if you did CMU that's way over. So it has to be 1 hour fire rated, however you get there.
I understand.
Yeah, so that's kind of the proposed. We've got the next over, we had a Schaus definition that again, it mentioned this machine shed under a common or connected roofing system. I just kind of deleted all of that. I changed it to a structure that combines a living space with a shop or garage and is primarily used as a dwelling. So Brian, that's kind of the discussion. Houses are often made of steel or wood, can be built in a variety of sizes and designs. A dwelling where the garage square footage exceeds the living square footage. So that was kind of the section that I added where we didn't really have anything in our code that stated that before. And then I put in also known as barndominium because colloquially that's what they're called now. It's in the last 10 years. And then I mentioned that section 9.2206 just for future reference that if someone's looking at the definition, they can go directly to that proposed that we just went over that has these 20 items of things.
What's the definition for living space? As far as like the square footage requirement? Like, let's say they put up a big shop and they want to throw like a workout room and a bathroom with a shower.
So we have it in there as, I can't tell you the definition word for word, but it essentially means like conditioned and meant for living. So it's got HVAC to it and it's a gym. That's, again, what are we talking about here?
Right. That's where the square footage requirement might be a little too much, I guess, I worry.
It does say
If somebody has a big building, they just want to put a couple rooms, bathroom in it, or whatever, workouts or whatever, like, you can't do it unless it,
So there's
it's
minimum,
only 1.5 times that size, you know what I mean?
so this is for residential specifically.
Right.
So you couldn't just put a gym in, you'd have to have a kitchen, you'd have to have a bedroom, you'd have to have a bathroom, you'd have all
Well,
the
you're
things.
talking a dwelling then, you're not talking living space.
Correct, correct.
So I don't know if that needs to be changed to be like the dwelling space square footage? You know what I
Sure,
mean?
yeah, because we got it up here.
Living space, I think, as long as you have a floor covering down and like drywall walls, it's essentially living space,
Yeah, let me see
code-wise.
what our definition is on there, and I'll just make it match whatever our definition is of either dwelling or living space. And if we don't have one, I'll just add a definition. I mean, there's definitely one in the code, the IRC, so I'll reference whatever it says specifically. It's usually like finished square footage,
Right.
or, because then that's your condition, that's your meant for human habitation, yada, yada, yada. So yeah, that's a good point.
I would think, your weight equipment isn't attached to anything per se.
No, but you're gonna have
It's-
flooring in it,
It's
probably,
movable.
potentially. Maybe you have some rubber flooring down.
So if you're taking up one stall in the garage, it's really not violating anything. You choose not to park your car there. It's something that can be moved out in a day's time and.
Well, but if
Personal
they,
property.
like, actually built it off separate, is what I was getting at.
And
Walled it off?
They're
Yeah.
using it for their square footage, is what Jeremy's saying, you know?
Yeah, like, would that then count as, nope, your garage can only be 1.5 times as big as this workout room and bathroom? Like, that would kind of,
If it's all attached to the house, then absolutely.
yeah.
That's how I would do it, because it's conditioned, it's part of your living space. So if you have 2,000 square feet of residential living space, whether that's a gym, it's gonna have to include all the things that the code requires, a kitchen, a bathroom, a bedroom, right? If that's 2,000, your garage space can be 3,000. Because you're 1.5 times larger than your living space.
Mhm.
However you wanna do that, there's always gonna be gray zones of how someone designs their house. If they wanna have the minimum requirement for a kitchen, the minimum requirement for a bedroom, the minimum requirement for a bathroom, and the rest of it is a home gym. Again, they're residential, so are you like really into working out, or are you having all your friends come over and you're starting a business out of it? Again, you're gonna get a letter from me going, oh, wait a second, what are you doing here? But
Well, at some point, you're gonna get limited on your space per lot.
correct,
Right. Because
Correct.
if you add a 500 square foot gym inside your garage, but it's connected to the house, then that means you can actually add 1,000 square feet on your garage.
but like you said,
But if the lot size is,
right,
Well, if you try and do something commercial, you're gonna have traffic, you're gonna have parking.
Well, you
There's gonna
can't.
be Issues with parking.
yeah,
and
you
stuff.
couldn't,
So somebody's gonna know what's going on.
right,
And complain, I'm sure.
right. So that's where,
it would take a pretty unique situation to get in a bind, I think, with what Jeremy's talking about.
yeah, which someone, I mean, that's why the code's in there. Again, someone who's Mr. Olympia and wants to have a massive gym as part of their house, hey, as long as you got the code requirements for bathroom, kitchen and living room and sleeping room,
We don't
got-
have any of these now, right?
no, because they weren't really allowed. They were only allowed under a conditional use and transitional ag.
There's one out in Garvin Road, isn't there?
So that one is technically the living space is larger than the garage.
It is.
Yeah, because that was the start of this entire conversation
Yeah.
3 years ago, is barn dominium. And he was transitional ag, so that's why he didn't have to, that's why it's built the way it is, because he's not in a residential area.
And it was just garage, he used the barn part was just garage. As far as you know, he didn't do
Yeah.
anything else out of there.
So, that's a good note on that, exceeds the living square footage. I'm gonna find a definition and update that, so we just match whatever the code says.
I mean, really, it's only gonna apply to like acreage sites. Like, nobody in the grid is gonna be able to put up a barn dominium anywhere.
No,
If you're in a development, you're already restricted to having
Right.
whatever the house you can have in there.
there's one.
So it's gotta be one-off things on,
Yeah, there's one lot in particular that's residential and it's a large lot and they're wanting to do this barn dominium thing, which is where this restriction
Okay.
came up. That's exactly why, because they're a 3 acre residential lot. They're not transitional ag. If I told you where it was, I'm not going to, you'd know exactly what lot I'm talking about and exactly where it resides. But that's why
It would be hard to find out.
that limiting factor of, hey, I don't want you running 15 bays down the length of your lot and having a little residential spot, right? That's kind of where
Yeah,
the limiting factor. And they can put an accessory building up too. So if you really need all this additional space, like you're in a residential area.
So I see on the next page there, Bruno, I see these are all conditional use.
They are.
So each one of those have to come back to us.
So I put that in there because the original transitional ag was a conditional use. So I made it permitted in transitional ag because it was already conditional. And then for all the residential 1 through 3, it'd have to come back up here to you guys. And if someone is putting up this ridiculous building, neighbors would come. I mean, that was my thought process, just because it was originally conditional and transitional ag. Up to you guys, if you guys want to make it just permitted straight through, but this is somewhat of a unique
Yeah,
building design and style and structure.
for now,
So that's kind of,
until we get used to
It's
them.
gonna be a learning curve.
Yeah.
do we have any RS zoning though? Oh, this one's on Spencer, which I would be willing to bet, or Spencer Street or whatever.
Things are built out, but that would be the example that it could be a.
Okay.
You'd want to do it.
He just mentioned that we've got a couple RS, which are like the 3-acre ones. So his suggestion was to make it conditional there as well. So
But
yeah,
they can put up a building behind with a 3-acre lot, right?
absolutely.
If they want to combine it, that's.
Yeah.
And that's where the conversation with these particular people that wanted to put up a barn dominium, due to their acreage, to their lot size, they're able to put up 2,500 additional square feet of an accessory structure. You're just limited to 10-foot sidewalls. So when they're trying to store RVs and stuff in there, they either have to come in from the front, right? Because then you can put your 10-foot with your gable ends, or you have to use a lot of steel and try and make something work. And that's where the barn dominium question came in, and the sidewall restriction for the barn dominiums for that reason.
Are they wanting a barn dominium, or are they wanting to store people's?
Again, that's why
I mean, you don't know, but I mean.
that's where some of these limits come in. That's the idea behind the 1.5 times. Yeah. And again, all of this, because they're in a residential district, it has to be built to residential style materials. So you're gonna be using board and batten. There's some steel that like Morton Building uses, but it's not ag steel, it's a residential style board and batten look. Again, with conditional, they bring it to you and they've got some corrugated ag metal. I'm gonna pretty quickly say, hey, that's not residential style materials. So they have to make it look nice. Some of the photos that they showed me looks real similar to like a farmhouse style, like what Chip and Joanna Gaines do
Yeah.
and Fixer Upper. I mean,
Modern country.
right, a lot of them look like that, but, so you wouldn't even know it's a barn dominium, but we didn't have anything in our code to say, hey, your garage space is larger than your living space. So this is just kind of putting some rails on that. I can come back to you guys with that definition, or,
No, just add it.
Yeah.
okay. I'll just see what's in the IRC for the residential code for definitions, because we adopt that anyways. So I'll see what it is and I'll tweak that, and then I'll add conditional under RS.
You see on the next page, the ordinance, which I assume is part of this, right?
No, the ordinance number is the next one.
So,
So do we have a place to put tiny houses and tree houses? And we don't have any zoning for them, do we?
No?
We're just gonna put it in the books, and
just have to have a tree for the whole
in case we do, we have to have a cluster of trees.
There's a couple,
Has to be a cluster.
couple
One or
unique
more.
tiny homes have come up before. We have it in our code. I don't even know if we have it in our matrix. If we do, it's all conditional. It's all wrapped up in, but I don't even think it's allowed currently.
No, we have a 900 square foot, don't we, minimum?
There's minimums for the town, or for the tiny home and where it's allowed to go. I believe they're only allowed to go in RM. currently zoning, which is the mobile home.
Which we
So,
don't have.
and again, the reason that this was brought up is because about 4 different people have come and talked to me about barn dominiums. If 4 different people come and talk to me about tiny houses, the next thing I'm bringing up is about that. But I haven't heard anything about people wanting to do tiny homes. Barn dominiums have come up from about 4 different people. So,
You almost need a page on the website that has an actual drawn-out design of a house, a barn dominium, explaining on print, okay, if you're gonna live in this much, this can only be this big. Make it simple first, otherwise you're gonna get
Like we did trailers.
inundated with,
Picture
can I
the
do this,
trailers.
can I do this, can I do that? And
I'm gonna get questions anyways,
or
but
you need to
yeah.
just refer them to this, look at this. Or bring me a drawing, I guess.
Yeah, which is because all of these are so unique that I can put something out, but then the next call is gonna be,
It's gonna be-
but mine doesn't look like that. Okay, you're right. So again, I only see a half a dozen of these being built, but multiple people have been coming to me. So this is just trying and catch before, they wanted to do that whole subdivision out there, remember, where they wanted to do only barn dominiums. Remember that? Or they
Yeah.
called them something else, and that's kind of what started this whole, so.
Well, the cost of square foot to build a house. is
Correct.
what started the whole thing.
Right. So, I made the note for the RS to add conditional. Jeremy, I made the note that I'm gonna check this living square footage. I'm gonna find a definition in the IRC that we can really point it down, or even just in our regular code. Other than that, you guys got any questions?
A million, but. Yeah. You wanna go get a bottle of water?
Regarding this.
If there's no other discussion, I'd ask for a motion.
I would make a motion to approve.
Ordinance change.
To recommend for
With the changes that.
Right.
he would do,
You got that, Christie?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Make
gonna
it, make it
approve
look pretty
92.
keep
too.
it straight.
I'll second it. Any other discussion? All right, I suppose I'll do a voice vote on this one.
Kyle,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes?
Scott,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Motion carried. All right, 8C, public hearing on recommended ordinance changes to amend floodplain regulations. Are these from FEMA? All right, I'll open the public hearing. Any public comments for or against?
Are they gonna do away with FEMA or is that what
Closing the public hearing, Mark? Discussion.
So this one's really simple. I actually just got a letter today in a nice manila envelope. I'm sure the mayor did too, stating that FEMA is updating rules and we have to comply with their changes. Essentially, all we did is adjusted some of the things that were in our current code, referencing the updated maps, because FEMA comes through and updates maps. There's a couple sections that they wanted added or amended to change to what FEMA said, and then there was a couple definitions that they wanted, that we didn't have, that they wanted added. So this is kind of a FEMA's just telling us to do this. And this came directly from, FEMA works with the NRD. So Anna Christ over at the NRD actually contacted me 2 months ago and said, hey, can I see your current floodplain? They did all the work, which was really nice. And they said, this is what you need to change to make it compliant with FEMA. They sent it back to me. It went to Andrea. She wrote this up. It got sent to the state as well with the NRD. So there's really no discussion about this. FEMA just said, do this. So that's all it is.
But nothing drastic.
No, all it's doing is adding a couple definitions and then changing the map references because they added new maps. So they just changed that and then amended some of the, nothing big though. I mean, they didn't change the
No
freeboard.
elevation changes or?
No, they didn't amend the freeboard.
Nothing technical.
Still a floodplain.
Yeah.
You got a whole dirty, don't ever go down.
Did Elon okay it?
I think it might have happened before he got in.
Well, all I know is flood insurance has to stay, or you'll never get a 30-year mortgage,
Right.
you know.
So this, and like I said, this just comes straight from FEMA. This is what the NRD, Nebraska NRD, are working directly with FEMA. This is what we need to have in our ordinance to be compliant with the NFIP program and everything else. So I'd say there's any discussion, but there kind of isn't.
Any other questions of Rune or Greg? If not, I'd ask for a motion.
I'll motion to implement what FEMA wants us to do.
Okay, second,
Second.
Mark. Any other discussion? Voice vote,
Kyle,
Yes.
Larry,
yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Anything else, Rune?
So you guys got this. I know you were asking about it. Building and zoning 2024 recap. 726 permits last year. 65 of them were residential. 15 of them were commercial, new and remodel, mostly remodels. So that's the main meat of that, and then 629 electrical, plumbing, HVAC, pool, fence, roof. So 726 new permits. The fun part, fees, I just rounded them. They're pretty accurate. Water, sewer connection, tap fees was $153,600. That's just for water and sewer. And then contractor fees, that's for their licensing, was $11,600. And the fun one, permit fees, was $423,600 last year. Inspections, I did 1,203 last year. They're all broken down. This new system, I say new, it's been 2 years now, breaks down and creates reports. So if you really want to see when I did each one of those 106 footings, it'll tell you the date, the address, and the result of the inspection. Mark did 53, he's from Douglas County. He does the inspections when I'm gone, vacation, training, whatever. And then Sam, who's our electrical inspector, did 596. So, yeah, it's kind of just a quick overview of building and zoning last year. And I thought maybe we were gonna hit a little bit of a slowdown, and we've got Catalina firing up and potentially a couple other developments that were,
Valley Landing?
yeah, Valley Landing, Catalina, Stillwater. Now I've got 2 or 3 building permits out there, so everything's kind of speeding back up. January, we had 7 new homes, which is a lot for a January. But the ground hasn't frozen deep enough yet, so people are putting foundations in, and I've got, I don't know how many in February, but at least as many. So,
There's some guys working out there today, working in different places, my gosh.
So, yeah, any questions regarding that?
Keep up the good work, huh?
I'm trying. Yeah.
I think we'll keep you the rest of the year.
Good, good.
What kind of vitamins do you take?
Yeah.
Go, go, go.
Anything else guys want to talk about?
Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
who made it?
Marty, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You don't have to go home, you can't stay here. Thanks, everybody. Didn't keep you too much on overtime, huh?
No, it's a good point. I just didn't think we had any on that stuff.
Hey,
What they do now?